I was having trouble sleeping, had a lot of anxiety. It was middle of the pandemic, and things were just feeling a little stuck. I was thinking about it, like I've dabbled in Feng Shui for a while now. I had a friend that kind of introduced me to it, but I was always hesitant because it didn't make some of it didn't make sense. Like, how come we all have the same, grid, right? Like, why isn't it changing based on who I am? That part I couldn't quite grasp. And then I found you on Instagram, yeah, probably a year before I reached out, and some of the stuff you were saying just made sense to me, like how it shifts based on the person, based on where you live, like all those pieces made it make more sense than the traditional stuff that you kind of hear about in the US. And I think when I reached out, I was having trouble sleeping, had a lot of anxiety. It was middle of the pandemic, and things were just feeling a little stuck. And I thought,
hmm
let me try this. Let's see if this gets things kind of unstuck.
Yes, it was. While it was 2022, it was March. We had our discovery call March 2nd, 2022, actually. And so, yeah, we were right at like that 2 year mark. So things are really in full flow. And you had mentioned like during that crazy time that like drinking had come up more and
Yeah.
anxiousness had come up more just because we were at our homes. I mean, that's like no judgment
Yep.
on you. That's a little bit true for everybody at that time.
There was a whole lot to do, and so I wasn't socializing, I wasn't working out. Like, I became a hermit. And the more I became a hermit, the more I became a hermit. Like, it was this, kind of cyclical thing. So that
hmm
was me reaching out, I think, was me trying something different to see if I could kind of pause and shift things a little bit.
Yeah, not sleeping well. And then there was like some more like a lot more in your headness you had
Yes, I was
mentioned.
very much in my head. I think that was the anxiety piece of it.
hmm
What obviously wasn't dating, even just being consistent with things. It just felt very foggy and
hmm
confusing, I guess, at the time.
Yeah, just life overall. How did career feel? I know you were like
Um,
enjoying your career. I do have written down a little bit more depressed, a lot more anxiousness, the juggling a lot of feels like there's a lot of work and it's hard to take a day off.
yep. So work, because I was working from home, I didn't have boundaries. We are going through a lot of changes at work, which we still are, but it felt overwhelming to not have that separation from,
Mm-hmm.
because I mean, I still do, but I was working from home at the time, and so it felt like all I did was sit at my desk and work all day.
Right. So balancing it all. So one of the first things we did was this was your original setup. If you remember, can you recall that
Yep.
long ago? Your office
Yep.
is in the northwest and your
Mhm.
bedroom was in the southwest. And so that's where some of like that, yeah, everything you just listed, how you were feeling. You said you weren't sleeping very well. One
Mhm.
of the first things I saw immediately in your flying star chart, in your Bagua map, was that not only were the flying stars more appropriate if you swap the rooms, but also your health and relationships were in the northwest and west, which is better for someone to sleep in, and your lucky career and success directions the southwest. So you essentially had it swapped. You were working in health and relationships, sleeping in career. And
Mhm.
what many people might not know is that sleeping in career can cause this like it's very yang energy, and so it's these like alpha waves while you're trying to sleep. So the first
Mhm.
thing we did, and I said, "Are you up for it?" I was
And
like,
it's so funny because I remember the weekend after, I literally moved everything myself that weekend. I was like, we're
right.
just doing this. I just, I like had, which is crazy because I have like a king size bed, and I had like the mattress in the hallway. I'm like, I will get this done. And so it took me a weekend, but I did it.
Right. Yeah. That's the other thing is people, yeah, they do get kind of hung up. How am I going to move all this on my own? You can do it. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just like, okay, I already invested in this, so let's just do it and see what happens. And I figured the worst that can happen is I switch it back later on,
Right.
which I haven't.
Yeah. No, you have not. You said like immediately the first night you like
I
slept through the whole night.
Yep. It was, I feel like, I don't know if because the room was bigger, I don't know what it was, but the new area is a lot cozier. So I'm
Mm.
able to sleep through the night mostly.
Well, it's also because of the energy, right? It's like, it's also that unseen energy of you're not sleeping in those yang alpha waves anymore. You're
Hmm.
sleeping in a direction that's supportive to restoration, and relaxation. And
Yeah.
for people who aren't like looking at the charts like I'm looking at the charts, it does. Yeah, you're like maybe it's maybe it's the mirror, maybe it's a different size of the room. But I
Mhm.
mean, some of it is the case, but it's because of the direction your head is facing now and the room you're in. And then how is working in the new office?
It's good, and I know, I mean, work is still crazy. We're just going through a ton of change, but I think we did a check-in this year, and you kind of warned me about some of the stuff. So I
Mhm.
landmines to avoid. So that's been helpful because they've actually, the landmines have happened.
Oh,
So that
really?
part's, yeah. One of them was, just kind of the what we called it gossiping or bickering amongst women. Oh my God, there was
Hmm.
like a 2, 3 month period where I was just like, okay, just sit here quietly, don't engage, don't engage. Um, because you had already kind of warned me about it. And I think with all the changes and just, everything else happening, I knew to steer clear. And so that's been, kind of head down is what I'm doing the last part of the year, just
Hmm.
because I can see it. I'm detached from it enough where I can
Hmm.
see that energy now.
Right. Getting the heads up, like knowledge is power. It makes it way easier to feel calm and patient when you
Hmm.
know one, like when you have, so what she's talking about, what we're referring to is that when we do annual updates, so we're sort of jumping around, but we feng shuied her space. We had a 30-day, 60-day check-in, but that started in 2022. And then every year since we've done an annual update, which is a smaller session where we talk about, okay, we've done your base feng shui, and then the new energy comes in for 2023. And that is why this year feels a little different. And then the new energy comes in for 2024. So here's some feng shui tweaks. And then also let's talk about your astrology. Look for any patterns, look for any landmines. Yeah. So what you're referring to is, yeah, giving you a heads up about some of the gossiping. Oh, but so back in 2022, after you moved your office, like since then to now, you've gotten some raises or been invited into
Oh,
some rooms?
Oh yeah, yeah. Work has actually been it was kind of crazy. I was given a retention bonus, which I was not expecting. I was, I've earned more than 100% of what my bonus is supposed to be every year. I
Wow.
was invited to I work for an international firm, and so they
Hmm.
have a program for women to try to make it into the C-suite. So it's kind of accelerating that process. So
Amazing.
out of like 45,000 employees, they selected 50 women across the globe, and I was one of them. So it was a year long program. So just those opportunities, having my name mentioned, in rooms that I'm not in, and then hearing about it later, that's kind
Oh,
of that's
cool.
kind of amazing. You're like, oh crap, they know who I am. So
Yeah.
yeah, all that kind of stuff. It doesn't, I was thinking about it actually this morning. It's not a fairy godmother magic wand, right? It's more like
Mm-mm.
things are a little bit easier, things align a little bit faster, and that's what makes it easier, I guess, to kind of go through your year. It's not like every problem goes away.
Mm-mm.
It's just a little easier. In my head, it's almost like driving down the freeway with a bunch of traffic or no traffic, or going down, the HOV lane, the carpool lane. And so it feels like there's less traffic and you have the carpool lane, so you're able to kind of breeze by a little bit faster.
Yeah. Oh, it's so exciting. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That just reminded me how this is kind of crazy if you think, remember how when we met, you still had like somebody else's Netflix and some of your
No, my
somebody's
ex had
stuff.
my Netflix login.
Oh, yeah.
Um, and my and my family was like, okay, that's just weird. And they're like, okay, you need to cut him off, which I did. But
Mhm.
yeah, it was funny that I didn't realize how much stuff I was holding on to. And even now because I declutter like once a year, it's easier, like you find little things that you've forgotten or maybe held on to, and you're like, oh, I'm ready to let go of that. And it's not like on purpose, it's more like things just, kind of make it through when they shouldn't have. So that part's been interesting too.
Yeah. There's a lot of people who can empathize with that and like you're going to really help them. What do you think is the biggest difference? Like, do you think I don't want to put words into your mouth, but like, do you think it's because you're clear on where you want to go? Do you think like after feng shuiing it makes it easier? Like, what would you say to the person who does have difficulty decluttering? And you're not even like that over cluttered, or
No,
you didn't even really have that much. So it's like,
but I still
what do
held on
you?
to stuff. I don't know if it's, I think consciously you're like, I'm ready to let go. but
Mhm.
unconsciously you haven't kind of dealt with whatever it is. Like the Netflix thing, it was hilarious to me because it had been a good over 10 years. Like
Yeah.
why was I doing that? And I think part of it is that last little string, right? You're kind of holding on to that last little string, but when you start focusing forward, you kind of get clear on what it is that you want. All that other stuff just kind of naturally falls away. So you're not even like trying to have it fall away. You're just like, this is not where I'm going anymore. So I don't need that. I don't know if that makes
Mhm.
sense.
Yeah, I think it does. I think that's going to help a lot of people. I think also a lot of people think, okay, feng shui, my space isn't that big. I can't do too much. So that's where I was headed when I was saying, you have a 2 bedroom apartment. It's not a mansion. It's also
Hmm.
not a studio. Like there's room for options. But it probably crossed your mind, like, how much can I really change? And so can you share with people, did you change more than you expected, less than you expected? Like,
I would
did it feel
say
over
I
the top?
No, I would say I changed a lot less than I expected. I
Mm,
think having seen like the other feng shui that we all see
mhm.
online, websites, whatever, I was expecting maybe a lot of
Yeah,
things,
tchotchkes.
tchotchkes, which is not my style, right? Tchotchkes is not my thing. And
Mhm,
I was pleasantly surprised that there was not a whole lot of that. And then even the tweaks that you suggested were not overwhelming. I don't think I ever spent more than like $100 total in a
mhm,
year, just kind of getting the stuff that I needed. And what's funny is, I think back to, I think it was last year where we had put in for the year maybe some bamboo, for example. And I think it was like in the bathroom, and it was fine for like a couple years. Or no, it had been in there for a couple years. And then sometime like around this time last year, it dried up. It was
mhm,
kind of crazy. And we talked
mhm.
about it, and you said like the similar thing had happened. So just kind of knowing that the stuff that you give us isn't super expensive. The fact that it dried up like did not kill me because it wasn't, this $100 plant.
Yeah,
But also knowing that nothing is very few of the things that you recommend have to stay there forever and ever, right? That's the other thing.
yeah.
Like there are adjustments that you make year over year. So,
Yeah, some of the yeah, like the annual things
hmm.
move. I remember over here, Northeast, you needed metal. So you were like, I don't know why I'm feeling anxious. I don't know why I'm feeling in my head. I don't
Oh
know why
yeah.
that's feeling like so dominant.
Hmm.
And so in the Northeast, what'd you put there? I mean, I remember how quickly it transformed, but
Yep.
I'd like to hear how you remember it happening.
So it was funny because there, yeah, you said I needed metal, and then I think it was air. So I have a balcony there, and I tried so many different things out there, and I finally settled on. I found some. You said I could use it. I think my fear was, oh, I should never use the balcony. You're like, no, no, you can use it. Just
Mhm.
be careful what you put out there. So I put out some yellow patio chairs. It has been nice. Cleared out that closet outside, and that kind of lightened things up. But the
Mhm.
game changer was. It was literally a little speaker with a speaker stand, and I bought the speaker gold, I remember, and I play string music, 2 or
Yeah.
3 times a week through that, and that kinda helps calm down the energy. The other thing was, I think at one point I had my bar cart over there, and you were like,
Mhm.
"Hey, just be careful with, having alcohol there because whatever you have there is gonna kinda amplify," I think it was what it was, and we were like I was a speakeasy everybody was coming to during that crazy time, and so once that got moved out, like, that kinda settled down as well. I thought that was really, really interesting.
What's different about classical feng shui with the flying star technique is the number combination that she had here was a combination that was like dirty. It was a combination of earth and water, and that muddy water can be over drinking. It can also be like messy thoughts. So it can be anxiety and it can be an overindulgence. And so it wasn't shocking to me when you were like, these are the one of the like two of the five things that I'm struggling with. And then I was like, oh, and that's where your bar card is. So yes,
Mhm.
your the recommendation is add in metal because we had earth and water, and to smooth out that elemental cycle, you add in metal. And because I wanted it to, because it was something that was like really top priority, we really went full force. So not only adding in metal, but that string music, I was like, play music frequently, and it'll make sure that it never stays stagnant or stuck. It'll like wake it up once a week. Not
Mhm.
everything that has to do with energy clearing is saging, but sound. It's uplifting, it keeps you calm, and that's what the Northeast specifically for you needed. That is something else that came up. Like you were starting to notice right when we first started working together. You were like, also, I'm not one to get cluttered, but my kitchen just keeps like
Oh yeah, I kept
I can't keep
collecting
up with
clutter.
it, and I don't know what that is.
Yeah, and that was funny because my sister, who is probably, she says I'm way too organized. She would come over and she goes, "What is happening in your kitchen?" Because that was not typical of me, but it was almost something I couldn't control. And
Mhm.
so I think we made a few tweaks in there, I remember, and then it's definitely gotten a whole lot better.
So yeah, so far, like nothing crazy. You have the same couches, same similar art. I think there was one piece of artwork in the living room where I was like, that shouldn't be
Oh
there.
yeah, I had I for whatever reason I loved pathways, right? And you were like, okay, pathways to nothing is not is not the greatest. And we
Yeah.
switched that out, and I think I put in because it's the fire area. I used to do fire, so I have
Mm.
like these vibrant flowers. And I think that was the only switch. But that, I think I waited for a sale and found kind of what I liked. So that
Yeah.
was probably the biggest thing.
And then brightening up your front. This year we brightened up your front a lot.
Yeah, which is interesting because I did switch out a few things, and that was by choice just to make it a little bit different. Added a rug, a new shelf, a mirror. But what's interesting is I have to be very careful with the front because it can get a little cluttered if I
Mm.
don't think about it, right? And with the other pieces, I leave the light on now because for whatever reason that seems to kind of give the space a little extra, I don't know, a little extra happy. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, it's been interesting. The other thing is I remember I had my shoes outside or outside kind of when you walk in the hallway and you're like, "Can we put those in the closet?" And that actually helped big time because now I don't have a clutter of shoes just kind of
Mhm.
hanging out at the entrance.
How have you like do you feel differently about your home? Do you feel differently with the way you choose art, the way you decorate, or do you feel different
Yeah,
when you look at your
um
space?
yeah, now it's I don't even I've always chosen things that I love. But now I think I actually shop less because after I think us meeting and kind of knowing what goes where, I found stuff that I love that feels good in that particular space. And I don't know if anybody's ever had it where you may have a wall or you may have a space where you're trying to decorate it and nothing seems to fit and you keep kind of changing it out. Had a couple places like that here, and that's been kind of resolved.
Hmm.
So the other thing is, even now when things get messy, like I just got back from a trip and there's suitcases and laundry, it's not anxiety inducing because I know it's temporary.
Mm.
So it
Mm,
just,
yeah.
I don't know, it's my haven. I think that was why it was hard to even date anybody because I love I love my house. And just only because it came up. One of the things that you told me about with the energies was something to do with, if I remember, something to do with eyesight in a woman. And my mom had eye surgery. And the second one, which was kind of after the new year started, it was a little more complicated. It took a little bit longer to heal, and you had
Mm.
actually kind of called that out when you looked at it for the year. So I thought that was really, really interesting. And she's all good now, but you had said don't, make sure you're kind of watching that.
Yeah, don't be blasé about it.
Yeah. And so that was,
Yeah.
yeah, because it was she had a cataract removed and it was bigger, and she was like, "Oh, I'll go later." And so I was like, "No, no, we need to make sure that this is all cool and set." So that was actually random, but it was good advice.
Yeah, oh, good, good, yeah. What would you say to people who are like, "I don't wanna hear anything bad?"
I don't think you told me anything bad. I think you told me things to maybe watch out for, but it never felt negative or, it's not like going to a tarot reader and, she says you're gonna die tomorrow. Nothing like that.
Yeah.
It's more like, hey, this is kind of what the energy is. But the other thing too is you're like, just because that's the energy, part of it's, your mindset and, your what actions you take as well. So it's not just a one thing, like I'm gonna do this and my life is gonna be fixed. You have to put in the work too.
Both ways, yeah. Just because it says this doesn't mean your life's over, and just because it says this doesn't mean
Hmm.
everything's gonna work out for you. It's like,
Yeah.
how are you going to make the energy how are you gonna use what you know to
Yep.
and
You
what are you
need
gonna
to
make of
leverage
it?
it. Yeah, to me it's like how do you leverage it, right? And that's where the I think the onus comes back to the person.
We're not gonna talk about your personal life, but I would like if you could shed a little bit of light on how.
Oh, I know. And this was
Oh, okay.
this year that we talked about. Um, when we did our check-in, I was like, the dating thing's not happening. And I know, and I'll keep it kind of high level, but dating thing's not happening. There's somebody, but he's not moving. And you told me to we had to move my flowers, my I don't know what you call them, peach blossom flowers. And
Yeah,
I
your
just had to
pizza.
move location, and literally like 2 days later like the floodgates opened and things started progressing, so it's just funny that that little thing actually kind of prompted what was already kind of brewing. It pushed it over the line to get it
Yeah,
moving again.
nice.
Hmm.
And if you could shed any light on, and if you don't have anything that comes to mind, we don't have to.
Oh,
If you
that's
could shed
okay.
any light on when we first met, how you were like, this is kind of what I'd like at a relationship, and this is kind of person I'm looking for. And I said to you, well, do you think you're actually ready for that? How did you feel being like kind of tested a little bit? And we talked
What?
about how you maybe weren't great at receiving help.
Mhm. Yeah, oh my gosh, that is so funny because that triggered a memory. So yeah, we did talk about, I wanted to get out there again, start dating. It'd been a minute. And you said, are you open to receiving? And I was like, yeah, maybe, no, I guess not. And I had an interaction with a neighbor. I remember it so vividly because I was bringing something up and he offered to help. And me being, the strong, independent woman was like, no, no, I got it. And he looked at me and he's like, well, my mom would be very upset if I didn't help you. Like, this is what I need to do. And I was like, oh, okay. So I let him help me, which felt awkward. But then
Yeah.
it turned out to be okay. But I caught myself, I'm like, literally carrying, when you're carrying all the grocery bags
Right,
and
right, right. Yeah.
um and
That
I
me
couldn't
is
accept
like
help. Yeah.
everything onions.
I am superwoman, I can do this. And then there was nothing wrong with somebody helping you. And that's when
Mhm.
I was like, oh, I gotta let people help me. And I started doing that a little bit more. And it turns out the world didn't end and people didn't think less of me. So there
Yeah.
were things I had to work on myself, I think,
Mhm.
before the right person came along.
And that's yes. Feng Shui will make your life easier, will make your life better. It will ultimately get you where you want to go. If it was a magic pill, I probably well, we'd all be rich and like in love and it would be so easy, but there's things that we learn about ourselves to become a better person for an even better match. And I
Hmm.
as much as I would love to say I'm this magician that like transforms people's lives overnight, I would rather be honest with. So even though the feng shui didn't transform that part immediately, you did start seeing like, I feel like it's easier to reflect after you feng shui in a weird way. It's like an
Yeah, because you go into it thinking, well, this is what I want. I think the thing where you challenged me was, okay, tell me more. So it was the tell me more piece where I really had to define what I was looking for. And it's almost like I don't know if you've ever read articles about people who win the lotto, and they don't know how to manage money, so they end up, in a worse
yeah.
circumstance than before. I
Hmm.
think that's, the quick fix feng shui, that would probably be it because you haven't done the work. So you're
Right.
not prepared for what comes. And I think the work we did prepared me for what came. But there was some introspection and no, it wasn't overnight. I'm not the same person I was 2 years ago. So current relationship would not have worked 2 years ago. I would not have
Yeah.
appreciated it the same.
Oh, that's amazing. That's it's so good because I like it's so much more exciting. I'm like a big celebrate the journey, not the destination. I mean, also
Hmm.
celebrate the destination, but like I get so lit up seeing people's progress. And yeah, like I'm are you like happier with who you are now? How do you feel that compared to 2 years ago?
I don't know if happier is the right word. I mean, I'm not unhappy. I think I'm more let me think if I can think of I feel more authentic. Like
Mm.
and accepting of who I am. I think I was not necessarily unhappy before. I was anxious and there was a lot of noise. That's still there, but I'm able to deal with it better. But I'm also like this is who I am, this is what I want, and I'm not going to apologize for it. And I think
Mm.
that's been part of the journey, right? Getting to a place
Yeah.
where your authentic self and kind of the peeling the onion, right? Some of the crap falls away.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, we all do love a money success story. So to wrap it up, I am seeing in the notes that you said at 51 you want all credit cards paid off, you want to hit savings goal, you want to max out 401k, and there was like maybe this thing of like six figures of debt you had because of student loans or something.
So student
Mm.
loans are gone. That's zero now.
Which is crazy because
Right? It was a lot.
two
Oh,
years, that was like not in the 2 year plan.
no, but it kind of aligned. I think there were a lot of bonuses and extra income coming in through work that I didn't know could be possible. Raises, were above the norm. So just it wasn't stuff that I could have counted on that just kind of
Mhm.
happened. It
Yeah.
flowed very easily. I'm 401ks maxed out. I'm almost done with all my debt. I have savings is getting there. So I'm seeing that progress and it's a lot easier than it had been in the past. It's not as anxiety inducing.
Yeah.
So I think that piece. What's interesting is I think the piece that I've always struggled with is probably health and working out. Um, and it's funny because you said the more you work out, the better you're going to do at work, and that
Mhm.
actually has been has been very true. But I was able to kind of figure out what worked for me and get away from being raised in the 80s and 90s. You have a perception of what working out should be like, and I found something that worked for me, and so now it feels authentic and doable, and it's long term, sustainable. So all of it kind of came together. It's almost like a big puzzle that came together.
Yeah, and in, like, never in the order that you think. There's a little
Hmm.
bit of surrendering and, like, but I think that's what's so great about feng shui is you can give some of it up to the space, like, you feel like there's something else helping you. We had touched on this, but when we first met together and we first talked, it's like you're already doing the things. You're already, like, doing well and stereotypically successful and a hard
Hmm.
worker, but when there is that plateau or that tension or that stuckness, it's like you're bringing in this, like, extra help.
Yeah. Well, the friction becomes less, right? So
Mm.
you're able to kind of glide through things a little bit easier. No, I think we've.
Anything you would tell, there's somebody who's saying it's too much money. There's somebody who's saying, I don't wanna give up my stuff. I don't know how I feel about change. There's people who are like, I just don't know if it's gonna work for me.
I think I believe in the timing of things. Like I said, I followed you for a year, and then it was this thought. And once the thought got into my head, I knew I had to do it. So I would tell people that, if you've been following Jeanette for a while, if you kind of are like, I should do this, but then you talk yourself out of it, don't. Just go with it because that's your gut. I don't know if it's, your subconscious, your gut, whatever it is, kind of telling you that you need this. I think, like I mentioned, I didn't get rid of a bunch of stuff. I didn't spend a ton of money and I even think, the amount of money I spent doing the consult with you was worth every penny. In fact, I've come back every year because I do want those updates. So I would say sometimes we, spirit, gut, whatever you call it, tells us something and we ignore it. And that's where we are not doing the best for ourselves. So I would say go with it. If you have that thought, invest in yourself. I think it's worth every penny.
I like to say that feng shui is like Yoda. When you start to think about it, like you're ready for it, right? Like he
Exactly.
appears when you're ready, and it is a random thing. It's not super popular. Like it's not totally the information's kind of inconsistent. And so I'm glad that you said like listen to the gut where if it's on the mind and it kind of keeps coming up and you kind of keep
Hmm.
thinking like should I give it a go? Those subtle cues is like your gut
Yeah,
telling you, yeah.
the universe is like, hey, here's, we have a saying which is like, God says, help yourself and I'll help you. Like,
Mm.
he's not going to show up and just go, okay, here, let me fix it for you. You gotta put in a little bit of effort as well. So I would say just go with it. And the other thing is what I'm a big believer in manifesting, right? And if I
Mhm.
really want something, I swear the universe conspires a way for me to get it. And so
Yeah.
if you really want, and money's tight or whatever, just focus on I really want to do this with her. I swear the money will show up somewhere, somehow.
Oh,
It always
nice.
does.
Thank you so much for sharing your story and your message and helping people and just giving them an unbiased insight into what it actually is and what it actually takes. And We want to spread more truth about Feng Shui. So thank you so much.
Anytime.